Premed office hours. It is May 7th. It is our first Premed office hour since the application seasons have opened. 1 second. Holy moly. We are a clown show this morning. Trying to get everyone on. We have a new person joining us. Super excited. All right, we're going live on Instagram. We're live on the TikTok. We are live here on YouTube. Hello. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters, author of the Premed Playbook series. I got one book next to me, The Guide to the Medical School Personal Statement. We can talk a lot about personal statements today since that is a huge part of your primary application. As we get started here, we do have a couple more people joining us here in a minute. We'll keep the suspense going. Get your MCAT questions ready to go because we'll rock and roll. We have our MCAT expert joining us today. So let's get going here. Let me come over here, and come here. All right. Let me make sure I can. Oops. All right. Here we go. Petros is here. Let's bring Petros on. Hello, Petros. Courtney, you ready to join us? You can join us or not.
I'm just going to look like a ghost today. It's fine. I don't know what's going on.
Camera quality issues.
I'm going to try one more thing.
All right. Petros, we need a nice little light in front of you too to brighten your face up. We'll work on that. Cannot hear you. Your sound's not coming through. So let's look at some questions here. Leo, entering the app cycle, just got the MCAT back lower than I hoped. All right, Petros, get that mic working. Was practice testing 508, 510, 505 is might not close door, but trying to decide what strategy to do given the timeline. I mean, 505, that's right in the range of that 508 as well. Petros, yeah. Petros, if you don't know, say hello. Make sure I can hear you.
No, I changed it. It defaulted to the wrong microphone is what happened. So
all right. For those who don't know, Petros is joining us with 25 plus years of experience in the MCAT space, now helping us with MCAT tutoring and test prep for Medical School Headquarters. So super excited to have you, Petros. The language here that Leo is using, we can tell he listens to the podcast and Premed years or the Premed office hours. I always talk about stats as either keeping the door open or closing the door. And so that's that might not close the door. Thoughts for Leo here?
Well, I mean, as far as the score that you got versus the score that you were getting in terms of practice, you are within the range, right? So like there's a confidence band of 1 point in either direction for each section. So it's really an 8-point swing, right? 4 points in one direction, 4 points in the other. So you did fall into that category. So from that perspective, I would say, you perform the way you might have expected to perform. That all being said, in terms of the MCAT score, yeah, absolutely. Like doors opening, doors staying closed, absolutely kind of perfect way to think about it. It's, the MCAT's an opportunity for you to show what your potential may be, right, in terms of this very defined, standardized exam. I think in terms of kind of strategy going forward, if you're looking to retest, which I get the sense that that's the question behind the question, but I'm I don't want to make any assumptions. You know, the key is going to be to really kind of do a little bit of an analysis into what it is that you did to get you to where you got to, which, you know, is an above average score, but at the same time, what you're going to be able to do and what timeline you're going to have to do something different to make the tweaks. Like, really, what is it that's holding you back? The other thing that I'll say, and is kind of to answer Leo's question, but also to kind of address MCAT scores, there's really two ways of looking at an MCAT score. That is the overall score, but then also what the distribution is as far as the individual sections. And, you know, it's like a 505 and a 505 aren't necessarily the same thing, because if you know, skewed in one direction or the other on a given section, you can still end up with a 505. So you have to ask yourself kind of, where are the opportunities? Where are the points that are still on the table that you can be getting in terms of your prep?
Yeah. The question that most students will have at this point is, should I retake at the end of June or in July, and still apply this cycle?
I won't answer the question in terms of how
that'll tell me the answer. That's all they want.
No. I want to answer the question as far as like how that'll affect the application and how that'll affect, you know, chances of admission.
Yep.
But I will answer the question in terms of timeline, right? Let's just be realistic. Today is what, May 7th?
Yep.
And if you want to test in the middle of June, that gives you 4 weeks, right? So, or, you know, like it's a good amount of time, but it's also not a lot of time.
It's not a lot. My question is always, what are you going to do differently?
What is that?
My question is always, what are you going to do differently?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Like, what are you going to be able to change between now and, you know, let's call it June 15th, 13th and 14th, there's a test, right? So like, that's a question that you have to ask yourself and be able to answer well, really. And we can help you figure that out. Like, that's not, you know, that's what we're here for, but just keep that in mind.
So what's the next step for Leo? I don't know if Leo got anything tangible.
I think the next step for Leo is, one, I mean, if you want, have a conversation with me. Like, that's like, let's talk. I think right now, I think the question for Leo is to go back and say how we got to the 505, how that compared section score wise, in terms of how he was performing on the practice test versus how he performed on the actual exam. If he's thinking of retesting, identifying where the content areas are that still may need to be addressed, but more importantly, what skills and strategies and critical reasoning skills need to be developed. Because, you know, with the MCAT, it's about knowing stuff, but you get rewarded for being able to apply what you know.
Yep. And
how well you're able to extract information from the exam itself. So I think the question right now, so the answer, Leo, is you have a little bit of homework to figure out what it is that's gonna move the needle for you, and how much time you have to be able to move that needle, and whether or not it's realistic to move that needle in that amount of time, and then, you know, schedule a retest if that's what you're planning on doing accordingly. So maybe you schedule a retest for July or August, and you have a higher score, but you still, I mean, I won't get into the application side. Maybe you still apply with the score you have now, with, you know, indicating that you're testing again, right? There's that can come into play. So hopefully those are some tangible pieces for you.
Love it. All right. Really appreciate it. I think a helpful follow-up question is whether or not to mark the retaking it block at the end of June. There's really no marking it, right? If you are registering for it, it's gonna mark it.
Yeah.
So there's no hiding. I think a lot of students think they can hide from a retake. Like, no hiding. Maybe on the DO side, because they don't talk to each other.
No,
do you know how that works, Courtney?
Yeah, I caught that a couple of years ago, and they've made a change now because of some things that
sneaky
I was seeing. So nope.
Yeah, no hiding. There is no hiding. Awesome. Dawa, did I shoot myself in the foot? I'm waitlisted at an MD school in Philly. What do you have? You have Jefferson, you have Penn. What other DO or MD schools are in Philly? You have Drexel, Temple. You got a bunch of schools there.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to pick. I mentioned working with ICE Health Services Corps as an interpreter, also with USCIS. I don't know what USCIS is. In asylum interviews. The school is very liberal, by the way. Are my chances over? Ooh, Courtney, what do you think? Are they gonna go, oh, you are anti-immigrant because you were working with ICE? Go away.
No. Nope. If anything, I mean, you were working with people
Yeah, who needed help.
who needed it.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, a moot point. No.
Yeah.
Put it from your mind.
But they're stressed about every little thing.
I know. But this isn't a thing.
Yeah. Strategy question from Michelle's house. Staggering your application to med school so you can stagger receiving the secondaries. If yes, by week, how many would you say to send at a time? I've seen this more and more, Courtney, with students trying to stagger. I mean, it's not wrong or bad. It's something.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like you need to, a better situation is just your pre-writing secondaries, so that when you're rolling out, you are able to flip a good chunk of them around fairly quickly.
Yep.
A lot of schools don't pre-screen at this point. They want to see who's coming in, or collect a fee, depends. But
Or both.
they're they allow you to put yourself forward as a candidate by returning the secondary. So a lot of them will fairly quickly turn it around. So again, if you feel like it's necessary, yes, I wouldn't put a lot of time in between them.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of time. The whole point is to flip your secondary around and have it polished so that you can be considered for an interview sometime in the fall, hopefully, but those spots fill up very quickly. And so there's not a lot of buffer to just stagger this out until October. You don't have that time period on the MD side, maybe for the DO side, some of them.
Yeah.
But this, you won't get weeks out of this.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, right? If we think of it, AMCAS only, the average number of schools is 18 schools. Let's round up to 20, just for simple math.
Yep.
If they do 2 schools at a time and they separate by 3 days, right? It's like, hey, I can write 2 secondary applications in 3 days. Sure. That's 10 periods of time. That's an extra month, right? 30 days. So that's just one way to think about it. Michelle's house is, are you okay with the last batch of schools not getting your primary application or not being signaled that you want to apply to them 30 days after the first batch? It's just a risk stratification and game you're playing.
Yeah. I mean, potentially a month. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't push it.
Yeah.
Months into the future. Like, I understand people have to work full time or they're doing things full time. Do you want to make the cycle happen or not? Sometimes you need to take some time off of work if at all possible, or just work on the weekends or whatever, but you need to bang out quite a bit of content. So obviously we are here to help with that if you want to make sure you're not spinning your wheels in the wrong direction for the time that you do have available. But staggering can only do so much. It's just a tight time frame.
Yep. It is. All right. But I think a common question, just to clarify for you, Michelle's house, is adding more schools. There's no re-verification process or anything that happens. So you're not like delaying anything by adding more schools later. All right. I saw an MCAT question pop up here. Where did it go from?
I'll take that one.
Courtney. All right. Perfect. Got you.
Just kidding.
If students planning to take the exam in 2027 in March, then is it okay to start off on CARS now and other pre-med courses I've already taken, or is it too early? Petros, when is too early to start studying for the MCAT?
I mean, yeah. So studying 2 years ahead of time, you're gonna burn out. Like I've seen it happen more times than I care to see it happen. So there's really there's like multiple phases of studying for the MCAT. So there's the like easiest way to describe it, active phase, which would be the 4 to 5 months leading up to the exam. That all being said, everything that you're learning in an undergraduate class, when you're taking GChem, even as a freshman, right? When you're taking OChem, all of that eventually is going to come back to you on the MCAT. So there's nothing wrong, and actually I would encourage it, where you are at least aware of what you're going to be held accountable for a couple of years down the line, right? So, and this goes back to the notion that the MCAT as an exam, as far as the breadth of topics, it's very, very broad. But the depth at which you are responsible for those topics will never be at the same level as your professors in college are going to hold you accountable, right? You need to know certain reactions as far as organic chemistry, but not at the detail and not at the like intricacies that the OChem professor, who is an organic chemist, who wants you to learn the material like an organic chemist, is going to test you on, right? So getting familiar with the material is not a bad idea, at least being aware. And the best place to do that is to go to the AMC website. They literally list out all the topics that are, what can be tested and how it's tested on the exam. So getting yourself familiar with that, absolutely great. From the CARS perspective, I mean, that's all critical analysis. I mean, the name of the section says it, critical analysis and reasoning skills, right? It's not that they tell you in the name of the section what they're actually going to be holding you accountable for. That's not tested anywhere explicitly in school. Like, you do not go and take a CARS course, but the critical analysis and the reasoning skills show up over and over again in your undergraduate classes, right? So if you're taking a writing class, or you're taking some history class, or part of your breadth requirements, there's always analysis and reasoning that's coming into play. Same thing goes with labs. I mean, that's labs, the purpose that labs serve is, I mean, I think a lot of students will argue, myself included, that labs serve the purpose of driving us crazy, right? Because you're trying to get the right yield, and you're trying to get the experiment to work, or getting the lab to work. But what the lab is actually teaching you is the application of the science, but more importantly, the reasoning and the analysis of why did these things happen when I, mixed A with B and I got this color to come up in the test tube. Like, why did those things happen? It's not memorization at that point. That's analysis, and that is, critical thinking in kind of the purest application sense of the term. That all being said, as far as like your active preparation for the MCAT, best time to start it really is right after you have finished the pre-med courses. That way the material is fresher in your mind. And then, make sure that you're giving yourself about 4 to 5 months to actually prepare for the exam itself. 2 years, that's a lot of time, very easy to burn out. And quite frankly, without the right spaced repetition and the right guidance, you'll forget some of the stuff that that you saw there if you started sending it a little bit too early. So hopefully that answers that question.
Love it. Sweet. Question from TikTok. As I'm looking here. Another MCAT question for you, Petros. Testing June 14th. So we're a month out.
Yep.
Month out. Last minute tips. What should students be doing this last month to maximize their score?
Yep. So so if you're testing June 14th, then effectively you've got, let's call it 4 weeks between now and the exam. The knee-jerk reaction would be to potentially be taking a full-length exam every week between now and the actual MCAT. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not the way to do it, right? Like that is actually a bad idea if we're kind of in this crunch time. It also depends, and it's one of those weird cases where it kind of depends on how much studying you've done and have been doing, right? Versus kind of if you've been studying for the last 3 months, then I'm going to give you a different answer than if you haven't been studying for the last 3 months. But let's kind of assume that you're somewhere in the middle. What you want to be doing is you do want to take a full-length exam the week before and 2 weeks before the actual MCAT. Like that's going to be solid for you. So you want to make sure that you do that. And you want to make sure that you're giving yourself time in your schedule. So, consider all the other obligations that you have in life, right? Whether it's work or if you're going to still be in school or you're still in school. I know lots of folks are finishing up finals this week and next week. So, time kind of frees up. But you want to make sure that you are budgeting in time to actually review those full-length exams. The act of taking a full-length exam is important. It is not complete, right? That is the tip of the iceberg. Taking the full-length exam is just to take the exam. The real learning and score improvement happens as a result of you going back into the exam, figuring out what you got right, what you got wrong, and why you got it right and why you got it wrong, and identifying what you can fix in the amount of time that you have, and also what you should fix. Because there are going to be questions that you're going to get wrong that maybe that topic is so low yield, you'll never see it again. It just so happened to show up on the exam that you took, right? The practice exam that you took. Whereas if you're struggling on a high yield topic, thermodynamics, high yield topic. If you're struggling on thermodynamics, you need to be spending time on thermodynamics, right? I always use thermodynamics as the example because it is such a high yield topic on the exam. And it's so omnipresent, right? It's in bio, it's in physics, it's in chem, it's in all the places. So that's what you're looking at for those 2 weeks leading up to it. Here we are about a month out. If you haven't already, take a full-length exam, right? And spend time doing that analysis. I'll give you one little tidbit as far as wrong answer choices. And that is the mindset that you want to always be adopting. And that is that when you make a mistake on any multiple choice exam, be it the MCAT, be it your driver's license exam, like whatever multiple choice exam you are taking, when you get something wrong, you've actually made 2 mistakes. You've made the mistake of being attracted to the wrong answer choice, right? Something convinced you in your mind that the wrong answer choice was in fact correct. And you rejected the thing that in fact was correct. You convinced yourself that, oh, this is totally wrong. So if you can start to identify why you did those things and why you're making those errors, you can start to identify patterns. Using those patterns, you can then turn around and identify where it is that you need to be putting focus on. In the last month, it's the last thing I'll say for right now, in the last month before the MCAT, you need to be laser focused. Every single minute of your time should be efficient study. Don't do the thing where you're saying, I'm just going to reread the review books. Or I'm just going to keep doing Anki decks. I keep hearing that from people, right? I'm doing Anki decks. I feel good about myself. Like, yes, Anki is great. Do Anki, but there's only so much you're going to improve as a result of that, right? You'll feel good about yourself, but it won't actually be moving the needle forward.
Nice.
I learned so much. I'm taking this stuff too.
Yeah,
right. Courtney, you're ready to take the MCAT, right? We'll do it.
Can't
Courtney,
wait.
you take the MCAT with Petros's help and our amazing MCAT tutors that we have on the team. And then we'll get one of our amazing advisors to help you with your application.
I'll take the Casper and preview.
Okay.
That's where I shine. That's where I shine. But I don't know if I like physics enough to want to sit for the MCAT. And
yep.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah. I don't think anyone does. So that's the reality.
Oh my goodness.
Love it. Amira, I have a low GPA, 3.4, science GPA 3.19 by graduation, upward trend, but many C's. Last C was in the fall of sophomore year. I'm biomed major with lots of science credits. I've had 4.0, 3.7, 3.6 science. Do I need a postback? So Courtney, they gave us a good amount of details. Thank you for giving us the trends and everything. So it looks like they've kind of tried to turn it around and have turned it around with their science GPA. Thoughts on if that's enough or if they should explore some more?
Upward trend is incredibly helpful. How far it will take you. I'm glad that you were also a science major. I think that's important because it will give you more foundational science courses that could be valuable for the AdCom to see. I mean, I guess it depends on what you would be doing the Postback in, I think you'd have to be kind of selective. Like if you're just retaking some stuff, okay, it's not going to move your GPA needle, I'll tell you that. Once you hit a certain credit threshold, you essentially need 6 semesters of straight A's to even click it
Yeah.
one over, and I can speak from experience on that. So if you feel like you need more of a trend, or you want to test yourself out against kind of first year med school curriculum and you think that that would be helpful, okay. But there's not much GPA repair you can do if you've got this many credits. And the trend is good.
The trend is good. The thing I always leave students with is the question that really nobody can answer is, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
Right? If you've had 30 credits at a 3.9, is another 20 at a 3.9 going to prove anything?
Right.
Some schools might say yes. Other schools are like, you've already done the work. And that's where, at the end of the day, it's a risk tolerance. Like, you could apply knowing that maybe you should also be taking classes while you're applying, just to keep that trend going up. But
yeah, and it's good to have your C that far removed. It really is. I mean, but have I seen C's in OChem 2 fairly close to the end and they still got in? Sure. On the MD side, on Texas side, on DO side. So it sounds like things are going well for you.
Yep.
Have a strong MCAT, nail in your clinical, have good essays, right? Just like anybody else.
Essays. You got it.
Essays matter a lot.
We
Everything else is just numbers. Everything else is just numbers. You know? So
Kiki recently got an offer letter to med school. Congratulations. Amazing. And then Mai up here popped in to say thank you to the MSHQ team. I did Application Academy, helped me improve my writing and interview skills immensely. Going to medical school in August. Yay! Congrats. Messy Nessie. I've been having trouble writing my personal statements. I know there's a book out there supposedly that can help, if you don't know. As a paramedic of 6 years, caregiver of my grandmother, would writing about how these make me want to be a doctor be a compelling statement? Courtney, sounds like they know what the personal statement should be.
I was going to say, it depends on how you write about your lived experience. That is, the goal is to share why you want to be a physician. Personally, I get a little soapboxy. I don't like the word doctor. Physician is unique to the profession. You can be a doctor of anything. So switch that in your mind. But I mean, it sounds like you've got great clinical experience and exposure, enough to kind of test your hypothesis of, I think I want to be one, to I know I want to be one. I think it sounds obviously like you're likely a non-trad, and I think this is where it becomes hard to write your personal statement, because what stays and what goes, and a lot of people want to give a lot of background information or how the path was winding, and I don't need all of that content as a reviewer. So you really do have to trim a lot of fat. I think that's why a lot of non-trads come to us for essay writings and stuff. So if you need to, reach out. But I mean, paramedic and caregiver just in and of themselves do sound applicable to exposure and wanting to follow medicine.
Yep.
Sure.
That looks good. Keep rocking and a rolling. All right. Dylan, I currently have around 200, 250 total hours of volunteering. Could this screen out for some schools? Dylan, first off, the question is, what is volunteering? Is it clinical volunteering, non-clinical volunteering? I'm on a mission to get students to stop saying the word volunteering, because it doesn't tell me anything.
Yep.
My assumption
just means
is
it's unpaid.
It just means you're still poor. Gotta get that bag. Come on, Dylan. Ask a little bit more. 200, 250 of clinical. When was the last time you did clinical? All that kind of good stuff. Our friend Vanity Nutrition. I've done a lot of secondary research to publish a book, as well as compel a significant change in my workplace for application purposes. Is this considered research? Vanity, when you say you've done a lot of secondary research, what does that mean? Are you talking about research for secondary applications? Because that seems weird. I don't know. Confirm. Do you guys understand that question?
I don't know I don't think it means secondary applications, but because I don't think that workplace is related to med school. So
yeah.
Just clarify it for us. We love you. Just let us know what you mean.
Yeah. I know their workplace isn't medical school.
Yeah.
Unless there's medical school in the sky. That'd be cool.
Okay. So using research others have already done, not doing it myself. So you're just kind of compiling it to publish.
Yeah. I mean, meta-analysis is looking at other research and doing stuff on it.
Yeah.
Go for it. All right. So let's see. Any other fun MCAT questions we can throw at our MCAT expert? It's interesting. Chandler on TikTok says the MCAT is going to be history in 5 years. I laugh at that. I'm like, yeah. No.
It makes way too much money. Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Chandler says more master's programs to MD-DO schools are coming with less emphasis on the MCAT.
Sure. That's just doesn't mean it's going to be obsolete. Yeah. And also I think what you're forgetting is you're dealing with a bunch of academic elites that love data, that love standardization, that want stuff that they can project into the future and look at, right? And so, no, I mean, even with the growth of standardized testing for situational judgment now and interpretation of soft skills, they're making that standardized. So, no, that's not correct.
I'll throw this out. As much as we, there's this kind of, there isn't a love, like nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to go take the MCAT, right? Like that's not, but you actually should, because we should be happy that there's the MCAT, because otherwise you lose the opportunity to show yourself in, and I want to be clear when I say this, no test is perfect, right? There's no such thing as a perfect test. So I'm not saying the MCAT is perfect, but it gives you an opportunity to demonstrate your skills and to demonstrate a part of your application and a part of who you are in a standardized setting. And if we go back like 70 years to when there was no MCAT, the way people got into med school was based on who they knew. And it was a completely different world. So yeah. Or I got to look for a line of work is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you're going to be testing the rest of your life as a physician if you're going to keep up your license. So you need to be able to sit for a standardized test. You're sitting for boards. You're sitting
8 hours.
Yes. Like, I mean, each step of the way, including through residency and post-graduation, you are sitting for tests to keep up with content. I think it's CME, right? I don't know, I guess if you actually get tested on it or if you just have to do the credit, but
yeah,
standardized
CME
tests are here to stay.
The CME tests are not hard, and you can just retake those if you don't pass. But it's all of the maintenance of certification stuff. Those are tests that you have to get recertified for your boards.
Yep. Testing will be part of your life.
Yes, you become a professional test taker.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting question from Ilya. There was recently an article on the Canadian broadcast channel, CBC of Canada, shedding some light on how Casper is not transparent with how they mark students. What are your thoughts on that? I saw that article. It seemed like a fun hit piece. I'm not sure who wanted to attack Casper. But yeah. There was an article, you can go read it. They had their opinions. I think Casper's pretty transparent. I've sat in on talks with at conferences with how they score and what they're looking for and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
That's how Ryan and I met. We were at a conference that they were hosting.
Yes, that is right. So yeah, I mean, I'm a little biased. I'm friends with the co-creator of it, but I also will call out, and I argue with friends a lot about what they do. I've argued with Casper about their pricing model. I hate that they charge per school that you have to send the application to, because that's just complete BS. There's no reason for that. But
well, there is.
To make money.
Yes. There's a very compelling reason if you're on one side.
I forgot. The reason is to make money. Yes, I forgot. QWERTY, I'm more of a Dvorak kind of guy myself. I completed many, I don't know how many of that comment went way over people's heads. Nope. I completed many of my prereqs more than 7 years ago. I performed poorly in them. I was immature. I want to give things another shot. Would a postback even accept me doing 4 years of pre-med? Courtney, there's a lot of ways that students can kind of overcome lots of bad stuff. I had this conversation yesterday, actually, a student in a similar situation, and told them, like, just, you can go get a second degree if you want. Just start classes over. Your goal is to take science classes and do well in them and take a lot of them. And just, again, coming back to that question of when do you know enough is enough? And just got to kind of pull that trigger. I told the student yesterday, I'm like, I would probably recommend 2 years of science classes for you, as many as possible. You have any thoughts there?
I mean, the question, would a postback even accept me? Each postback has different qualifications. Each SMP has different qualifications. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. You're just going to have to do kind of that tedious but important research on what they are looking for. But yes, you do need to do them again. At this point, if they're that distant and you didn't do well in them, this is foundational coursework. Some of the content's going to be on the MCAT. You're trying to signal that you're not an academic risk. And so whether you do it in an official capacity, postback or not, but if they're going to accept you, can't answer that. Each one is different. Some require the MCAT at a certain level before you get in, some don't. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of the postback programs that require an MCAT.
Yeah, I agree. They're meant to be preparatory, but it's you're gonna need that coursework.
Yeah. Petros, is 5'10" enough? I mean, they're 1 point below or closer to 2, right? It's really close to a 5'12" for the average matriculant. 5'10", go retake it, give up, find another career.
I mean, I'll say that you're below the average of those that matriculate, but you're not far below the average of those that matriculate, right? The average is an average. Yep. It's not everyone who's gotten into med school has scored a 5.12 or higher. In fact, by definition, half have scored lower, half have scored higher, right? Like that is the definition of an average. And then you look at the ranges, right? So there's that side. I will say, if you feel like there's more in you than because this is, I mean, I'm not in your brain, but I will post some questions out for you to think about. If you feel like there's more in you and you didn't have the opportunity to study as in depth as you wanted to, and that you would better your chances in the process by having a higher MCAT score, and you have the right amount of time between now and when you would retake, and how that fits into your overall application cycle, right? All the things, then sure, you can consider retaking. At the same time, you can consider not retaking because you just say, all right, this is where I'm at, and I've got, enough on the other side. And that's, I think, where part of that decision has to come into play. So I mean, you can't answer the question of, is a 510 enough? I mean, I'll be honest, a 528 might not be enough for some candidates, right? If that's the only thing that you have. I mean, I'm not an admissions officer. I'm not trying to play one, but if that's the only thing you have, chances are that's not going to be enough, right?
Yep.
So like,
that's where my mind went. If you're already an athlete, that soaks up so much of your time, and then a 510, but my mind, I mean, once you hit a threshold where it's not a risky score, you've got good grades, not a risky score, then you get to so what else is there? Which, if, you know, at least you're an MA, that's helpful. It is. But I'm not surprised that you had to take some time to collect hours.
Yeah.
So. And California is, you know, they do mass produce pre-med students in that UC system. I mean, they mass produce them.
Yeah.
So, but many of them are very prepared to enter medical school because of the curriculum. But it may be a tougher nut to crack in California if you are adamant about staying there. But a lot of it's also going to depend on who you've been working with and what you've been doing. If you have any community volunteer and engagement along with your MA.
Yeah. You say mass produced pre-meds, and the first thing that popped into my mind was like the stormtroopers being cloned and coming off the factory floor. Like just a bunch of little pre-med stormtroopers out there who can't aim.
As the native Californian, if the two of you would like to have a conversation,
I'm a native Californian. Excuse
me.
You
are too. That's right. So yeah. So
am I. I was born there.
Hey.
I was born in kind of a sketch area though. So it was in NorCal.
Okay. Wait, what were you gonna say, Petros?
No, I was making a bad joke that you're talking about California churning out these pre-meds. I was defending the state that I'm sitting in right now. That's all. But
yeah, nobody can defend California. Good luck. Yeah, I mean, I go to, okay, you got a 510. It's a good score. It's a really good score. Were you doing 525s on your full length exams and 510 was like, holy crap, what happened? Like, I probably would retake it, but I took the MCAT once, and if I had to retake it, because I had to reapply to medical school, right? I got it my second time. If I had to reapply a third time and retake the MCAT because it expired, I don't know if I would be here because I hated that test. Oh, man. Let's keep rocking. We got a couple more minutes here for questions, so keep them coming. Again, Petros is here, VP of Test Prep and Tutoring at Medical School Headquarters. We now offer MCAT tutoring. Petros, you've been in the MCAT space for 25 plus years. You've assembled a team of Avenger-like MCAT experts who are tutoring students as we speak.
Yep.
So yeah, come have a conversation with Petros if you're looking for some MCAT tutoring.
Please do.
One other quick MCAT question here. My answer would be no. I'd like to see your question, or this might even be an admissions question, really, for Courtney. 520 MCAT score, but that darn cars section.
Yeah, and I mean, it's notorious for being the lowest, but if you have a 520 and you got a 126 there, that's a steep drop off.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be looking all the way up like here in the 90s, and then this is at the floor. 126 is usually an acceptable range for a subsection, but I do think that they may put eyes on it. They may check and see if you're ESL, if there's any correlation there. I think when it becomes kind of a significant problem is if you're catching critical reasoning or judgment with word choice or really kind of lackluster LORs, maybe a low Casper or preview score, then I'm picking up on a pattern of this certain area being a little bit lower and potentially concerning, especially when it comes to like word choice and essays. So be very careful with that. But No, I mean, a 126 is usually acceptable. It's just going to look pretty significant, even though
Weird.
they would normally take
Yeah.
it. Normally that would be a strong subsection. It's going to look weird for sure. And there's nothing you can, it's fine. It's fine. You're
Yeah.
fine.
I did the math real quick. I'm like, oh, they average a 131 plus on their other
Mhm.
sections for
Yeah.
that. So they crushed. I like your point though, is right. And you didn't say this explicitly, but you said it in a different way, that as a single data point, probably not an issue.
Right.
Where there's potential pattern is, right, is this an ESL thing? Is this a language processing thing, regardless of ESL, to where your communication skills through your writing isn't great? Your communication skills in real life isn't great, and that shows up in your letters of recommendations. Does it show up in your communication skills in an interview if they invite you for an interview? And then they can go back to your car section and go, oh, this is a language processing potential issue. And I often push back, and Petros, I'd love for you to chime in on this. I often push back on cars when a car section is this low, and 126 isn't low, right? It's a good
No, it's
score,
not.
but compared to the other sections,
Yeah.
when it's low, but they crush the other sections, to me, that's self-inflicted pain for them going, I suck at the car section. Because the other sections are just as much critical thinking and analysis.
Yep.
They just go into the car section going, oh, this is my worst section. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no, so that's actually where my head was going, was that cars is actually omnipresent on the exam. It's in all 4 sections, right? So if you got a 126 on the car section and the other sections are low too, the first place I would say to go is actually cars, to boost up the critical thinking, and then you can fill in the content gaps and all that. In this scenario, that's, I mean, what, how you put it is exactly it, right? It's you're still showing you've got the critical analysis. Yeah. I've also seen this. I'm not suggesting this necessarily would happen to you, but I've also seen this where, because cars is the second section of the day, that you'll see a dip sometimes, just because of the physical psychology of the day of the exam. Like, you go in with all this adrenaline, you take the first section, right? You're kind of getting ramped up, you go full out, and then you get this little mini crash. Unfortunately, that happens during the car section. And then you get the other two. If we had flipped it around and put, I don't know, biochem there, we had put behavioral sciences there, maybe that's where you would have crashed. We'll never know whether that's
why don't they add that as a variable? Because to me there's no scientific need to keep the sections in the same order. It would be a very interesting data point to randomize that and go, is it a timing of the day issue where they're crashing from the donut that they grabbed on the way out the door?
Coffee.
Literally, that literally could be it, right? The coffee wore off, or the donut wore off, or whatever, right? Like,
interesting.
It's a great question. Other exams have done that in the past, where it was, you're gonna get these sections, but I don't know what section you're gonna get first. Yeah, right? Like that has been a thing. So
surprise, here I am.
No, seriously. And there was a time, this is like ancient history for the MCAT, where the order was different. Even, I mean, with the old exam, they switched the order at one point. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Quick tutoring question, or I don't know if any question is really quick with tutoring. Brandon, is it need-based or consistent tutoring? What's the style? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the word I love to use is it's bespoke. It's based on what you're right. So like that,
you use that. So Petros, you use that word. I had to Google it. I don't know what bespoke means.
Maybe I should stop using that word. Right? Is the so it's, I mean, think of it like this. It's a tailored suit. It's a tailored, it's a tailored home. The way that it works is, no, we're not going to say you have to meet every Monday. You might end up meeting every Monday, because that is when it makes the most sense for you to be meeting with your tutor. It might be that you're meeting, multiple times per week early on, and then a little bit less frequently as you get into some more, practice on your own, and then you come back to it and such. The way it works in terms of like what's happening in the tutoring sessions, it's a combination of coaching, combination of mentoring, test taking strategies, going over content if that's what you need. I always tell students, like, you don't need your tutor to be going over the content. You can go over the content yourself. You should be driving as the student. You should be driving the tutoring session, coming in with questions, right? It's not good enough for you to come and say, teach me, right? It's you come in and say, okay, I tried these 5 problems and this is where I'm getting hung up. Help me get unhung up from them, right? And that's the best kind of tutoring and the best kind of tuition, if you will. Tuition actually means learning, right? So tuition doesn't mean the fee that you pay. You pay a tuition fee. You don't, so when we use the word tuition, think of it. Yeah. So you learn a fun fact. It's like trivia.
See, I'm just really dumb with words. So you're teaching me all this stuff. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's, so as far as Brandon, let's talk, I think, is the easiest thing to figure out what it is that you need. Because that's probably the best, and for everybody. Like if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to need some extra help, we'll figure out what's right for you. We're not trying to put you into a box, is what it comes down to. That's not our model.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Exactly. I don't know if anyone's going to get that reference, but
nobody will.
We're so old.
Kayla says, can we keep in touch with Courtney and Petros? Yes. Come here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Petros, you have some workshops coming up for MCAT, premedevents.com for that. I'll post that here, premedevents.com, or just go to medicalschoolhq.net for our events calendar. Courtney, you are doing one-on-one advising. Your schedule's packed, as is all of our
literally
right
all
now.
Day, every day. Yep. Yeah.
We are in the thick of it.
We are.
And so, Courtney's available to chat. Courtney comes here Wednesdays, not every single Wednesday, but you're here.
Mm-hmm.
We're available. We like making ourselves available. That's one of our ethos, is trying to help everyone, not just people who can come and pay us. And so I'm glad you all were here today, learning and enjoying, and hopefully learning some new words like bespoke. It's like a tailored suit, apparently. Have a great day, everyone. medicalschoolhq.net for all of the fun things that we do, including the Pre-Med Years podcast. Petros, you and I are restarting the MCAT podcast from scratch, getting rid of our old partner on the MCAT podcast. They who shall not be named, all that good stuff. Courtney,
it's better now.
Thank you for being here. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.